Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another YouTube Live here. I'm excited for you to join me. Today, we have a super important topic, which I believe many people are affected from, and I myself have been too. And the topic is, why can't I seem to resist sugar cravings, especially in the evening? Is that a sign I lack self-control? Before I get into today's topic, though, if you enjoy these kind of live chats or in general our channel with the research recap with the podcast on Friday, please do me a favor, subscribe, give me a comment, hit the notifications button. I'm always so grateful for anyone who helps support us and helps us grow the show. But I'm excited for you to be here. I hope your week is off to a good start. I certainly have been having a lovely Tuesday and Monday so far. I am in Bogota in Colombia still at the moment. I'm going to be traveling to Bolivia for a few days in a couple of weeks' time, so I'm excited about that. But in the meantime, I'm simply enjoying my routine here. Had a wonderful leg workout this morning. Anyway, so let's get into why we can't seem to resist sugar cravings, especially in the evening, and what that has to do with self-control. So first of all, I want to say we should have a little compassion for ourselves, and it's not necessarily a sign we lack self-control. It depends or can be brought up because of numerous reasons, and I want to invite you to be a little bit more gentle with yourself and not think that you are a bad person, that you don't have the discipline, and so on. So we're going to talk a little bit about the mindset of it, or when it comes to that as well, and how we can tackle that. But first of all, know you're not a bad person. Know that you are not weak or whatever else just because you have these sugar cravings in the evenings. So when we think about why they come to exist or how we can tackle them and how we can eradicate them, I want us to go through a bit of a list of things beforehand. So why can't I seem to resist these sugar cravings in the evenings? The first question we should ask ourselves is, did we possibly not have enough to eat throughout the day? This is literally the most common reason for most people, especially in this day and age, because we might just head out the door and grab a coffee and then have something on the go for lunch, and then probably not anything from lunch until dinner, and then we take care of the kids first and the dog and the whatever and everyone else, and we just like nibble a little bit on something, and then you crash on the couch and you think like, oh, all I want is sugar right now. Why is this? Well, you probably didn't have enough in terms of just overall calories throughout the day, potentially. Maybe you are in an intentional weight loss phase where, of course, we have to accept that we are going to be a little bit hungrier, and we are going to eat less than what our body actually needs. But nonetheless, most people actually subconsciously undereat throughout the day, or particularly during the week, and then they have these huge sugar cravings on the weekend. The second question we should ask ourselves after this is, did we possibly not have enough protein throughout the day? Why protein? Well, protein is the most satiating macronutrient, and also there really is a direct connection between the amino acids in our body and simply how we feel, our neurotransmitters, and so on. So not having enough protein, as in about 0.7 or 0.8 grams per pound of goal body weight. That is a good place to start off with. Or if you want to err on the side of caution, you can also aim for 1 gram per pound of goal body weight. But you should ask yourself that next. Did you possibly not have enough protein throughout the day, and that is why you're having these high sugar cravings? When I have clients starting up, or any client that works with me, and they are quote unquote complaining of sugar cravings, especially around their period, I'm like, well, let's just first of all not even worry too much about the sugar that you have been craving or that you have been having, but let's worry about getting you to your protein goal, and then that might actually take care of the sugar craving a little bit in and of itself. Third question to ask yourself is, did you possibly not have enough fiber or not the right micronutrients throughout the day? So was your day not 80-90% whole foods, and you have been having a lot more processed foods. Why can that lead to higher sugar cravings? Well, there is a bit of a debate out whether, consuming more like just in general sweet tasting things, whether that's through artificial sweetener or natural sweetness, whether that increases sugar cravings or not. I don't necessarily think we need to, decide on one or the other, or be part of one or the other camp. But what we do know is that if we consume more processed things, all in all, whether that's sweet or not, but just more processed, that is very likely lower in volume, just in the sense of what the plate looks like, than if it is whole foods. So let's say, picture 350 calories, 400 calories of chicken breast and potatoes and some broccoli. You get a pretty good portion there. You can also have 350 or 400 calories from a Pop-Tart or a muffin, a small muffin, mind you, and big muffins are sometimes 500-600 calories. And it's pre-processed. That is why your gut doesn't have to do that much work, and therefore it is sooner not occupied any longer and wants to have more work to do, if we think about it that way. So having less processed things, but also with that more fiber, or enough fiber. More is not always better, but enough fiber can be very helpful in nipping those sugar cravings in the evening. Of course, another question to ask yourself: did you have enough to drink? Did you hydrate enough? Because just being dehydrated, or slightly dehydrated, not having had enough or plenty, can often mean that we feel hungrier, and then we can't really dissect the hunger from the cravings, and then that leads to sugar cravings. So yeah, I would just say hydration is another big point. Point number 5, and now we're getting more into the psychological things, is: did you not have enough me time? And I sometimes catch myself wanting a cup of coffee and some chocolate, or tea and chocolate, or whatever, when I simply haven't allowed myself a timeout otherwise. So I feel silly simply sitting, being like, oh, I'm going to take a break from work and just sit here for 5 to 10 minutes doing nothing. But I want to do nothing. Like, my mind and my body wants to do nothing. But having that justification of, I'm just going to do nothing, or I'm just going to do, like go for a quick walk or sit on the balcony and do nothing, feels hard to justify. Whereas if we have some sort of task or so, whatever, then we feel like we can take that me time. And I mean, back in the day, or maybe even now, people get that me time when they're smokers. They're like, oh, I want a cigarette, I'm going to have a cigarette, and they take that me time. But we don't really do that much throughout the day, just for us, without any food. And so we sometimes subconsciously crave the sweet things because we associate that with a time out. And while maybe having an apple and a protein shake or so might have actually filled the same hole, because you still take 5-10 minutes for you. Of course, we can also work on taking me time, more breaks, without any food associated to that. And that, of course, should be the ultimate goal, that we don't just get that me time through food. Especially moms or busy working individuals, we struggle to take that me time throughout the day, so that when we crash on the couch at night, we just kind of want to like numb almost, and yeah, just like shove something in us that gives us a quick dopamine hit. And at the same time, it's like, oh, I'm not responding to anything, I'm not doing anything else, I'm not on the phone, I'm not scrolling, I'm not ordering, I'm not nothing, preparing food. I'm literally just taking me time. So that would be an encouragement to think about: how much you time do you actually take throughout the day? And of course, that bleeds directly into stress management in general. When we are more stressed, not just physical stress, so not just from a lot of training, particularly after a leg day, you might notice that you're just hungry, or overall that you're craving more carbs, or maybe more sugar overall, because carbs do help our body to deal with stress. Meaning, cortisol, so our stress hormone, and insulin, they're kind of inverse. So if we are very stressed and we eat something, anything, especially something that contains carbs, we blunt the cortisol and the insulin goes up. And our body is craving that. It's wanting external help to deal with the stress. And that can also just be psychological stress. It can be emotional stress, anything like that. So when we are doing lots of thinking work, or when we are having to study for something, or then also we often have that higher carb craving. That would be something to think about, like, what other stress management techniques do I have available to me? And it can be going to the sauna, which of course, if it's too hot, can also be a stressor. It can be going for a walk with a friend, can be calling someone where you feel like you can be completely yourself and you're just relaxing with them, or you're having a cup of tea, or you're watching your favorite show, but not with food or so, but you're just trying to manage your stress and otherwise, and journaling about them or meditating regularly. We're actually currently running a challenge in our group, or for nutrition coaching in life. We call this a challenge the 3T challenge. So the 3Ts, it's a 75-day challenge where we want to track our food without any particular goals, but we're tracking our food for 75 days. For many people, just tracking, even without a specific target, often already leads to some sort of success in the shape of weight or fat loss, or even muscle definition, etc. Second one stands for training, although I do not want people to train 75 days continuously. It just means that we want to do some kind of movement for 20 minutes every single day. It can also be getting your 8 to 10,000 steps in. And the third T, which is why I'm mentioning this, stands for time out. So taking 3 minutes of something of stillness where you don't have any input. So no podcast, no people around you. It is just you're going within. It can be with some music. It can be with a meditation, although I do prefer people to just embrace the stillness. And believe it or not, this is actually the aspect of the challenge that is the hardest for all the participants. Everyone is like, oh, I really struggle with this. My body doesn't want it. I can't settle into it. And I too find that the first few minutes of my meditations are always the hardest, but exactly because of that, we need to lead into it. And then after 5-6 minutes or whatever, I feel my body finally relax and my mind also relax. And it has come to a point where I'm literally craving my meditation as a way to bring me down. And the other day, one of the ladies in the group, in the 3T challenge group, she actually said, she was like, I did a 10-minute meditation today because my body just was craving more. And I was like, oh my gosh, hallelujah. This is amazing. This is a really, really cool sign. And the other reminder that I gave people along the way, because I've been working on this for probably 6, maybe even 7 years in terms of building up my meditation time. But I just give people the reminder that it's never going to be easy. Even someone who, like me, who has been trying to meditate for a while, most days I don't want to do it. Most days I don't want to settle into it, and the first few minutes are hard. And just like with a workout, oftentimes we don't want to do it, but because of that, we need to push through that, and that is where the growth happens, where we have the benefit when we lean into that discomfort. Anyway, little excursion here. Going back to my points, I'm going to bring it back around. So again, we're looking at the possible reasons of why we are craving sugar, especially in the evening. Did we have enough to eat throughout the day? Did we have enough protein, enough fiber, enough to drink, enough me time? How are we managing our stress? And another reason for craving sugar in the evening is often actually just habit. It might have been a habit that you have picked up from your parents, and you've always done it in the evening. Every day you're sitting on the couch. It could be associated with a specific spot. You have made it a habit to snack on something. And that is totally normal. I have had that habit too. I've kind of transitioned it into having a cup of tea. Most evenings I still have a snack, but I kind of, work on not associating it with a specific location, so that I don't think, oh, I'm sitting on this couch, I'm now going to eat. But it is so habitual, and so many people, when they come to us, even after every meal, not just in after the dinner, but even after lunch, they're like, I have such a sweet tooth. I need something sweet after every meal. Nobody physiologically needs something sweet after every meal. That is a habit. We can wean off that habit with gum, with having fruit at first and then transitioning into gum, with brushing our teeth. There are many ways to get rid of this habit. Most people just like this habit and want to hang on to it. But just so you know that craving sugar in the evening can also just be habitual. The next point, we've got 3 more on this section. The next point is, if you have poor blood sugar regulation overall, there is a chance you are going to crave higher sugar foods in the evening. And that could be, again, because you are consuming too many carbs overall, or because you're not eating anything all day long and then you have a huge meal at dinner and then you can't really regulate how much you want and you're just eating everything in sight. It could also be because the first thing that you eat in the morning is just carbs and you have no healthy fats or protein with that, and therefore you're getting that insulin spike, and then it drops off and you have an energy crash, and then you grab a coffee or something else to bring that energy back up, and then you're going through all these crashes throughout the day, so that in the evening when you're sitting on the couch, once again you're craving more sugar. Another part associated with that, which in and of itself also affects blood sugar in a negative way, is actually lack of sleep. So if we sleep less than 5, even 6 hours, on average, our satiation hormone is going to be lower and our hunger cues are going to be higher than if we sleep 7 or 8 hours. So that is something to keep in mind, and not just in terms of overall satiation, but there are plenty of studies demonstrating that if we are sleep deprived, we are more prone to grab more processed foods. We are more prone to go towards those carbs because, as mentioned earlier, carbs in particular do help us bring cortisol down or blunt cortisol more. And so we have this desire to eat more carbs and oftentimes more sugars as well. So yes, there is a study where if you let people eat at liberty however much they want and they're sleep deprived, they consume about 500 calories on average more than if they get to sleep a good amount or a healthy amount, 7 or 8 hours on average. So just a reminder there, if you feel like you're craving sugar and you're like, why is this? Well, I've been having a stressful week. Maybe you also underslept. And the last point on this section would be exercise. There's also a lot of research indicating that if we don't exercise at all, we're going to have higher hunger cues or higher, we are not feeling as satiated. And on the flip side, if we're way training a lot, we're also, our hunger signals are kind of dysregulated. So it's kind of like a J-shaped curve, showing that if we're exercising a healthy amount, not over-exercising, not under-exercising, we are actually able to regulate our hunger signals best versus being more hungry when we're not exercising or when we're training too much and not being able to catch up or keep up with our energy demands. So now let's talk about how we can tackle this. And I mean, if we're just inversing everything that I've already said, you got a pretty good outline. Nonetheless, I want to go over it. So first point would be making sure that you are consuming the right amount of calories for your current target. Are you eating enough to actually feel your cognitive and function and your performance? But also, are you constantly under eating without a strategic diet plan? So if you are having weight loss goals, that's amazing. However, we need to actually make sure that we're periodizing that properly. Let's say going into an intentional weight loss phase for 12 to 16 weeks with maybe some diet breaks along the way, or even just taking a diet break after the 12 to 16 weeks if you have more to lose, and then going again, as opposed to just constantly trying to not eat too much and that resulting into a dysregulated metabolism, dysregulated hormones, and so on. So be very intentional with your weight loss, and when you are in those weight loss phases, do recognize that you are going to be hungrier, but often it's also about how are we distributing those calories throughout the day so that we can manage that you're not having these really high sugar cravings in the evening. So let's just say if you're in a calorie deficit and you consume over 50% of your calorie allotment in the morning, and then maybe have just a small lunch and a very small dinner, you're of course going to be hungrier in the evening, and I would recommend shifting some more of those calories towards the later day of the later half of the day, where you're actually needing it more or appreciating even more. So working not just on periodization but also meal frequency can be a real game changer when it comes to just like, okay, how can I manage my hunger better, and therefore also my cravings for sweet things. Second point, of course, being consuming enough protein, consuming enough fiber, consuming mostly 80-90% whole foods and only little processed things. And on the point, going back to the artificial sweeteners, what we don't want is constant grazing throughout the day or always having to have something sweet, something in your mouth. So some people, especially if they're in a calorie deficit, they have these teeny tiny, like 5 to 6 teeny tiny meals, which are more like snacks. Like sometimes it might be like some egg whites and berries or whatever for breakfast, and then half a protein bar for your first snack, and the other half of the protein bar for your second snack 2 hours later, and then you have this teeny tiny small meal, which is actually just a bar, and like in between that you chew gum and you have diet soda. Your hunger is probably going to be better regulated if you have an actual meal, 3 times per day, or let it be depending on, of course, what works for you. I'm not against snacks at all. Like people that know me will know that I love snacking, but we don't want this constant grazing going on where you feel like you always need to have something in your mouth. Of course, moving on from just the nutritional component in and of itself, working on stress management in general, I mentioned that there are various techniques, and just becoming aware of when am I most stressed, or yes, my boss yelling at me did actually stress me out more than I thought, or my relationship or whatever else. Working on sleep and making that a priority, but also again going more into the mindset sort of things. If we're noticing ourselves inclined to stress eat, to emotionally eat, to crave, to have these higher sugar cravings, the best thing we can do is pausing, thinking about why. Is there a why? Again, going through that list that I mentioned. Was there a specific incident for the day? Is there a way that I can perhaps insert a little bit of a longer pause and just say, okay, I'm going to talk to my friend on the phone, see if that helps. And if I want something sweet afterwards, I will still consider it. But just generally, often shifting our emotional state to something more relaxed, or also our physical state, where we're like, oh, I've done something that feels good for my body that was not necessarily associated with sugar, is really often very helpful. So looking at those underlying needs, like, is there something? Am I just feeling lonely? Am I feeling stressed? Am I feeling like I want more connection with other people? Well, I guess that's loneliness. Those would be things to look into. And another point, which was associated with the habit thing, we can change habits long term. My opinion and experience with it is that habits cannot be just removed most of the time. Like it requires a very strong why and will to just say, like, I'm going to completely stop snacking at night. For most people, it's more, can we replace this habit with something different? So if you're currently snacking on the couch every single day, maybe you can shift that into, well, what am I having? I'm having ice cream. Maybe I can change that for some bowl of Greek yogurt and some fruit. Or let me see, I'm going to have my actual meal first and then going to see, give it a little bit of a break. And if I still want something, I'm going to have some popcorn, homemade popcorn or so. So let's see if we can curb the carb craving with a healthier carb option first. Fruit is great for that. Popcorn, super filling for that. potatoes, sweet potatoes, super filling as well, oats even. So yes, let's see if that is going to do the job, or if you can create a healthified version of what you are craving. So perhaps a healthier, lighter brownie, or can we wean ourselves into the dark chocolate space as opposed to the milk chocolate, so that we're at least getting a little bit of a higher quality product here. And sometimes there will be times where you just want that one thing that you're craving, and no healthified version of that is going to do the job. And by all means, if we've gone through all the other steps beforehand and covered our protein, covered our vegetables, covered our sleep and hydration and so on, and you still want that cake or that brownie or so, allow yourself to have it. Ideally, make sure that you're actually working it in, like planning it into your day beforehand, into your refeed day or a regular day, so that you know, oh, I really want that cinnamon roll. I definitely need those 500-600 calories. I'm gonna just create the space in my calorie budget for that. But yeah, that would be my recommendation when it comes to that. I also find that sometimes working with time blocks is helpful. So if you tell yourself, I'm going to have a little bit of that, I'm not going to eat it in the kitchen while the fridge is still open, blah, 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 where we just tend to eat way larger quantities. I'm going to have portion out a little bit, sit on the couch, and if after 10 minutes I want more, I'm going to go and get some more. But I'm going to make sure I take these 10 minutes so I possibly have give my body the chance to interfere, and for willpower to kick in, I guess. Another method, which is sometimes going to sound a little bit strange, but just keeping our hands busy at night in a relaxing way nonetheless. So some people that I know have started like knitting or doing a puzzle, just so that they have something to do while they're watching something, perhaps. Of course, we also want to learn to not do several things at the time, but it can be helpful. Or even just brushing your teeth after your last meal. Again, going for a walk, anything like that, taking a wonderful bath. But yeah, those are my recommendations. And again, I just want to bring it back to have some compassion with yourself. It's not necessarily a lack of self-control or that you're weak because of that. And many of those reasons could be habitual, could be psychological, emotional, but also even just from a physiological point, chances are that you maybe haven't eaten enough overall, that you have been in a calorie deficit for too long, that you're not eating enough protein, not enough fiber, not enough micronutrients, not drinking enough. So let's see that we can learn on a daily basis out of habit to cover all these, and overall your cravings are going to be so much lower for sugary items. And then you can just work with a coach or with a friend or in a group or however else, work on occasionally allowing yourself those higher sugary things that you might be craving. But yes, from personal experience, I do believe and see that we can very much curb those with a healthy snack at night, with fruit, with low-fat Greek yogurt, and just overall making sure that we're consuming satiating things that satisfy us. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions about this whatsoever, about your calorie deficit, about where your protein should be at, about anything else, please leave me a comment. Feel free to send me an email as well, or check out our Instagram for more free content. And I hope to see you here next week, where I'm going to be talking about, what am I going to be talking about? Let me have a look. A trick to do in the morning to lose stubborn belly fat. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.